America, if you watch this program, you know that I believe there's trouble on the way, but I also believe in miracles. I believe that the Lord is actively involved in the preservation of man's freedom. He may not preserve it the way we want it preserved. We may go through a whole lot of trouble getting there, but it's not about us. It's about freedom. And the good news is he never loses. He never loses. But we have to be strong enough and be able to hear him again. There's so much noise in our life now. I've been talking this week about getting rid of some of the crap in your life. My wife and I, we downsized our stuff. We sold about, I think about half of the stuff in our house, and we sold it for charity. It's available at upillar.com, and you'll see what we're going to do with that money next year on this program. But we're also talking about getting rid of the noise in our life, getting rid of some of the TVs in our life, get rid of the phones and the games and everything else, because we're not listening anymore. It's too noisy. And I've also talked to you about the trilogy of holidays, as I call them. And I want you to look at these three, before I introduce my guests, I want you to look at these three things. We had Thanksgiving, we go into Christmas and New Year's. Why do we always fail on New Year's? We always fail on New Year's because we haven't tied these together. We have to give thanks first, and when we're humble enough to give thanks, then we can see the baby. We can see Christ, and he offers us a new start. It's the first part of the word in each of the holidays that we should concentrate on. Give thanks, see him, and start all over again. The first one is thanks. Don't make it a compound word. Separate the word. Giving. Giving. Because that's what Christmas is about as well. In Hebrew, love is actually two words. There's two characters for the word love. And it actually means I give. That's love. This is what we're supposed to learn in these holidays. I give love from the heart. That is what we're supposed to be doing. Unfortunately, sometimes we get lost. I want to introduce you to a couple of people. First, A.R. Bernard. He is the founder, senior pastor, and CEO of the Christian Cultural Center in Brooklyn, New York. A conservative church here in New York? Shut up. And Tom Mullins, he is a senior pastor and founder of the Christ Fellowship Church in Palm Beach Gardens, Florida, and a member of the Black Robe Brigade. And you have been there from the beginning. First, give me an update. How are things in the Black Robe Brigade?
It's going great. We've got ministers meeting, Glenn, literally all over the United States in our regional meetings, and they're beginning to mobilize. We've got new websites that David Barton's beginning to create right now, so we can help educate and help motivate and activate our Christian leaders across America.
Right. Because it's not about, America, this is not about politics. This is about the preservation of freedom and the principles that we all have to serve. Let me ask you, Pastor, are you a social justice guy?
Depends on what you mean by social justice.
Jim Wallace social justice. You're laughing, so I don't know what that means. The Jim Wallace social justice of let's grow the size of government. I think if you talk about social justice that is safe, it is the Lord is asking you to use your hands to give, to help. Social justice, the way it is perverted by many, is government. You've got to go out and vote for these people so the government can do it and equalize all of our stuff.
I don't approach politics or any of these social issues out of my ideology. I approach it out of my Christology, Now, that says that I'm responsible for the conditions of the society in which I live. And as an individual citizen of that society, I have a responsibility to do something. And that begins with making sure that I am empowered within myself so that I can then turn around and empower others. I'm not here to depend on government to feed me, to take care of me. Government's responsibility is to empower me to feed myself, to take care of myself. So if you're talking about social justice in the sense that I, as a citizen, have a responsibility to do my part, Yeah, I'm for that social justice.
For that. Are you for that? I mean, I think that explanation I'm for.
Exactly. I mean, we are to be the hands and feet of Christ as the Gospels compel us, and that's all a part of our outreach, and we're driven by our compassion. It's not a legislator telling us this is a law or a process or a policy. It really comes out of the abundance of our heart of love for others. It's just what you said in the opening.
Are you at all concerned that there is a blurring of politics and God? There's a blurring of this. We're supposed to, I guess, feel charitable on tax day. I don't feel charitable on tax day. I feel charitable when I give or when I do. And there's a real blurring there. Are you concerned? Are you see it in your in other churches? Are you seeing it at all? Why don't you think about it? We'll come back in just a second. We're up against a break. Back in a second. We're back with A.R. Bernard and Tom Mullins, both pastors, one in Florida, one in New York. And I asked before we went into the break, are you concerned what you're seeing in other churches of a trend? We're seeing atheism being promoted at the holidays, a season of reason. We're seeing the National Gallery of Art, they just pulled the crucifix of Christ covered in ants for Christmas. I don't know why that I mean, you have dinner with ants, I guess. And then, you know, I go out to California from time to time, and it's like the churches out there are like, it's like the YMCA. It's like poetry readings, and I don't even know what it is. Are you concerned about that?
Well, I mean, I think, Glenn, there's a lot of vibrancy today in many churches, and we're experiencing that. We've had phenomenal growth. We've had like an engagement of over 4,000 to 5,000 new members just in the last 3 months in our fellowship. But people are excited about being a part of a ministry that's really having impact. And we just recently had a wonderful opportunity. We had over 5,000 volunteers participate in preparing over 20 tons of turkey and feeding over 82,000 people during Thanksgiving time.
Cow.
And we are helping to get this mentality of service. Our teenagers no longer go to summer youth camps. They go to summer mission camps. And they're doing mission efforts around the world and right in our own backyard. We have a community called Belle Glade in our western communities in Palm Beach County in Florida. And we're out there ministering. And what's interesting, the week we're there, their crime rates drop. The attitude of this city has changed. And the city leaders are coming to us say, we need you here all the time. We need the impact and influence of what you're bringing.
I'll tell you, there's a community that we're going to for Christmas on December 15th. And like I said on the Restoring Honor event, it's not about politics, it's all about God. I say the same thing to Wilmington, Ohio. People are trying to say, oh, this is about politics. No, it's about God. And it's not about a struggling town, it's about a town that is refusing to die. And I think they're going to teach us an awful lot. Here's a town that has they have 34 churches in town. 7,500 people out of a town of 12,000 lost their job. And they have 35 churches, and they now have put together a 24-hour prayer center for the town, right in the center of town. It's unbelievable what's happening. We can learn a lot on how to survive and how to transform our nation, how to restore our nation from these individuals and these churches and these small towns. Final thoughts in just a sec. Hang on. We're back with A.R. Bernard and Tom Mullins, and in the break we were just talking about Al Sharpton, and Pastor had said that you were surprised to see him on my show at one point, and I said, you know, there are things that we can disagree on, and disagree on vehemently, and there are things that we need to unite on. There are common values that I think we have lost as a people. Everyone's not an enemy. They do things that we don't necessarily agree with, but they're not, and not everybody is an enemy.
And you should be able to have discussion even with those that
are
disagree
enemies.
with.
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
It's at the table, and you know there'll be those who ask me, well, you on the Glenn Beck show? Yeah, it's on the Glenn Beck show. So there'll be those who are questioning, you
Sure.
know, me being with you. I appreciate the work that you guys are doing. I think it's twofold. You know, Jesus said, man shall not live by bread alone, but by every word that proceeds out of the mouth of God. So he really elevated the word of God. But at the same time, he fed the 5,000. He fed the 4,000. So there has to be a balance. We have to be involved in doing everything we can to help those who are less fortunate. But at the same time, we have an incredible book, an incredible standard for living, because Christianity is a worldview. It's a decision that you make as to how you're going to live your life. The church is not a club. It's not a place where we come and we kind of hang out and, you know, we identify with each other. There was a court case, and this changed my life, 1972, and I heard a sermon from an attorney, David Burke, and it was a court case in 1972, the United States Supreme Court, because it got all the way up from the state court in Wisconsin to the Supreme Court, between a guy named Jonas Yoder, who was an Amishman, stubborn Amishman, and it was all over him putting his daughter in public school. And 1972, the United States Supreme Court ruled that all beliefs in America fall under one of two categories. They're either a preference, something you prefer to do, or a conviction, something that is the fiber of your being. And if you don't do it, you feel and believe that you've sinned against your God. They said that you can go out on the corner, hand out tracts, proselytize all you want in the name of a preference. Only convictions are protected under the United States Constitution. They said, well, what's the test? Well, number one, pressure. Pressure of your family. If your family's going to excommunicate you, will you succumb and give up what you claim to believe? If you do, it's a preference. Number two, peer pressure. If your peers put the pressure on you and they're going to disown you, will you give it up? If you do, it's a preference. So number three, if you threaten to go to jail, will you give it up? Threatening with jail time. It's a preference if you give it up. And they said, four, are you willing to die? Suppose you're facing death. Would you succumb and give up what you claim to believe? If you do, then it was never a conviction. It was a preference. Convictions strengthen under pressure. Convictions are non-negotiable. Convictions are a part of who you are. And we've lost the conviction of our faith in this nation. And that's why in our church, we're feeding, we're doing everything we can. But what we're saying is, look, this is a chosen life that is a conviction. Not something you prefer to do, but it's something that you have made fiber of your being.
Do you have any idea now why he has 30,000 people here in New York City coming to listen to him? That is unbelievable. That's what will save our country, what will save our souls. Conviction. Know what it is and find that conviction within inside yourself. Gentlemen, thank you very much. Back in a minute. I want to leave you with this thought. It wasn't a preference for him. It was conviction. Find yours. Read this book, Bonhoeffer, Pastor, Martyr, Prophet, Spy, from New York. Good night, America.